from the New Thought Media Network. This is the Conscious Reality Show with your host, Sarah Stevens-Nichols, where conversation plus intention reveals a new reality. Every week, Sarah and her guests will discuss what they know and what they don't. Experimenting in front of everyone with what else is possible. I'm Sunny Childs, and here is your host, Sarah Stevens-Nichols.
Thank you, Sunny, and welcome everyone to this episode of the Conscious Reality Show. I am thrilled to be here. And you know what I'm thinking about this week is change, how to change. I am preparing to lead this year-long class/support group, a monthly event where people get together and talk about what they're doing to keep their health and healing at the highest possible level. And I've just been thinking a lot about how I and so many people I know, we know so much about what is we should do to keep healthy, what to eat, how to exercise, how to behave, all kinds of things, right? And yet, do we do them? Do we actually do the things that we know serve us? And what can we do? And what I've found actually is the single biggest thing that gets me to actually do what I know to be most beneficial for my body and soul is community support. It's being with other people, checking in with them, telling them what I'm going to do, and then telling them I totally didn't do it. Like, how long it took me to have a meditation and prayer routine. It took me at least it took me years in a certain sense. And then once I actually started really working on it in earnest, it took me saying over and over again to someone, tomorrow I'm going to meditate at this hour in this place and in this way. And then saying, I totally didn't do it. And here's what I'm going to have to do to change. Like tomorrow, I'm not going to check my phone before I do it. Or tomorrow, tonight, I'm going to set out all the things I need in advance so I don't have to figure it out in the morning. Or ... Each person is different. And it's really a lot of fun to figure out what works for people and what doesn't. So that's what's on my mind today. And speaking of what works for people and what doesn't, my guest today is probably a big expert in that too, because she's a colleague of mine and she knows about how we use the mind to change reality and lots more, because she is a tribal elder. She is a creator of Winged Spirit Focus Ministry, and she is just a delightful human being who, like me, straddles different worlds. And we're going to find out how we straddle them and how we can support each other. So welcome, Reverend Dr. Victoria Bomberry. So happy to have you here. And apparently you have an animal with you as well that we may or may not be meeting at some point.
Yes, I'm here, and it's great to be here. And I'm here with Nikosi and Gracie. Gracie was the one who was meowing very strangely earlier. She had a different voice.
I didn't hear Gracie.
Oh, well, she was meowing in a very strange way. So
okay.
I have two animals, but I'm thrilled to be here, Sarah, and I really appreciate the invitation.
One of the things
to our discussion.
I am too. I'm so glad to have you. One of the reasons I wanted to have you on is that you are one of my colleagues who really cares about how this work integrates into the world, how we do our spiritual work, and how do we actually treat and move our feet in in the world, and create and reveal the world that works for everyone, whether it's diversity and inclusion or just any number of other environmental issues and things like that. And I know that you have been a leader on that in the Centers for Spiritual Living. Are you still in that leadership role, or are you focusing on your winged spirit?
Well, I'm still the chair of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee for CSL. So I'm still there.
Okay, good. I realized that I hadn't asked you that beforehand. So part of it being a reality show is I suddenly remembered that I hadn't asked you about that. So what tell me, the part of you that I really don't know at all is as a tribal elder, what that means, what you do, how you be. What tribe for one thing, or are there multiple?
Well, I am an enrolled member of the Muskogee Nation, but I'm also Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Lenape. And so I'm tribally mixed, as many people are, right? I mean, that's across the board forever and ever, right? We didn't just stay with one group, right? But
yes.
But you asked me, what does it mean to be a tribal elder? Yeah. And I want to say it's more a cultural thing that after you reach a certain age, there's just a recognition that you've lived a life, right? So there's that recognition, and and it takes a lot of different forms. When I noticed it in terms of different treatment, I was like, what's going on here? Suddenly people are feeding me first, and I'm getting all these things done for me, and I realized, oh, I guess I've got quite a bit of gray hair now. So it's kind of a cultural thing. And I also think it's that it goes deeper than that, right? Than just looks. We know that being an elder doesn't just mean that you're old, right? I mean, we can be old and we may not be very self-aware. And I think that is just the assumption, and I think it was a good assumption in Native nations that and among Indigenous people, that if you've lived a long time, then you've learned how to navigate the world pretty well just for survival. So I think that recognition was just, okay, yeah, they know their stuff. So these days, I don't think that that's necessarily the case, right? We can go through our lives and never become self-aware and pay attention to what life is. And, I think that we have different trajectories in life, and it's never too early or too late to prepare to be an elder, whether you're a tribal elder or any other kind of elder. I think elder is rooted in making a conscious effort and intention to live and grow spiritually, and live and grow and be able to navigate the world in the best possible way. So that means making wise decisions about how to live life.
Hi, this is Sunny, your producer, and it makes me wonder, when do you recall really starting that preparation? Like, when did that preparation start for yourself, whether consciously or retroactively? You can see now what you are.
Thank you, Sunny.
Thank you, Sunny. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think that I consciously started preparing, right? I think that as a child, I was recognized as, oh yeah, let's take care of this kid, right? So I got some, special attention as a child. And, things go on in your life, and, things change, and, there's different life situations that occur. And I don't think that I noticed that as much until I got probably in my 20s. And then I noticed that people would think that I was, because I would write, right? So people would read what I wrote, and they would think that I was really old. It was kind of funny, and they thought that I'm
Wait, why did they think you were old?
well, I think they thought, well, how can a 20 something year old write this?
Oh,
Why would
because
she
you were
write
so
that?
wise? There was a
Well,
wisdom
because they were
element,
thinking
or
I had more experience, right?
mm,
So, so it was. So I think that consciously, no, I didn't prepare. Uh, uh, Consciously, but I think that I was prepared. And we can say I was
mm,
prepared by spirit. I was prepared by people who surrounded me, but I was being prepared to be in a different kind of role. And I
mhm.
accept that. I accept that. I accept that
Yeah.
responsibility, and I accept some of the things that go along with that. Right? Some of the things that I don't get involved in because it's not um, healthy.
Not your
Right?
time in life to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
You're making me think of I don't know if you're familiar with the author and spiritual leader Starhawk,
Oh,
who
yes.
yeah,
Mhm.
I I love her book, her novel, The Fifth Sacred Thing. She's written so many books. I don't know how many novels she's written, but in The Fifth Sacred Thing, um, there's a sort of a dystopia and a utopian view of the future. And part of the utopian view is while the rest of the Western United States is controlled by giant corporations that are like forcing people to work for them, San Francisco has become this incredible utopia where the people are leading it, and they're leading it in kind of an indigenous people's way. And they have one of the principal features of this utopia. And oh, somebody's excited about Starhawk's utopia.
Yes.
One of the principal features is a council of elders, all of whom are women, who are the leaders of the community, because so they don't try to make any major decision without taking it to the council of elders, all of whom are women, and having those women sit with it and then come back after a period of deliberation, often interior deliberation, not necessarily communication with each other. Have you ever read that book, or what do you think of that?
I remember it, and I don't think I ever read all of it, but I was in some groups I was in a group with Starhawk.
You
We
were?
had a lot of discussions years ago.
Wow, I'm envious.
So,
I've never met her or gotten to hear her speak. I've actually tried a few times, and it just hasn't occurred. But I don't mean, what do you think of the novel, although that's interesting too. And there's some people who've been trying to make it into a movie for years, and it would also make a great streaming series, but that has not occurred yet. But what I mean is, I love that the most advanced vision of society, and it feels true to me, is that there are a council of elder women, and that's where the wisdom of the and the leadership of the community come from. And that's so not what's true in the United States at this moment. They weren't even, the United States wasn't even happy with having an elder man at the helm. Well, actually, they've just elected another elder man, but I don't think he behaves like an elder in quite the way that I um, envision elders behaving.
so your question is, does this
Is that
exist?
would
Is
that be it? Is that your part of your vision for a world that works for everyone, a council of elders? And
Well,
are you,
I think
and
that,
you kind of are the council of elders, part of the council of elders at CSL too.
well, the way that, yeah, I consider myself a feminist, I
Mhm.
do. And at the same time, I think that we have to deal with what is, right? I know we live in a patriarchal system globally, and I don't think that I think that we have to have awakened people. And what I love right now is that gender has come up as such a more fluid thing, right?
Mhm.
So we're not defining gender in a binary fashion anymore. We're exploring it, and we're looking at it in a very different way, and we're more curious about it.
Yeah.
And and there's also a backlash against that as well. But I think
Yeah.
that we're being challenged to look at these different categories that we've created,
Yes.
and really um, go after what is the wisdom in all of this, right? And what does each person carry with them? And this is not about any kind of superiority or hierarchy. It's about recognizing what each individual brings to the whole. And I would say cultures that have more equality built in work better. They just work better.
Yeah.
Where
Now,
there
is it?
is where the voices of women are heard and heeded,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Things
Yeah.
work better. And the same would be true, if there was a hierarchy where women were on top. Of course, we would have to. We don't want that, really. I don't think. I think what we want is for us to all function in a more egalitarian manner. So,
Yeah.
and cultures that have a council of women who are very powerful. We can look at the Haudenosaunee, where the clan mothers are the ones who choose the chiefs, and they're the ones who can remove them from office if they don't fulfill their duties. That's a way of dividing leadership, right?
Mhm.
Sharing
Yeah.
leadership and coming up with a mechanism for that kind of leadership to work. So, yes, I think we have to have those kinds of mechanisms. We have to have rules that we abide by, and we
Yeah.
have to have values that we follow, right?
Yeah.
And I think that,
Imagine that.
the goal is for us to all be able to live at the highest level that we possibly can.
Hi, this is Sunny
Yeah.
again. It makes me think about a couple things. One is, last year's Barbie movie, where the issue of who's on top, and at what point are we all going to play well together, actually comes up. And if you haven't seen the Barbie movie, it is kind of radical, though it is a mid-stage. At the end of the film, I don't want to spoil it, but there is a place at which there's a chance for let's all just play well together. And Barbie's clan is like, not yet. We're good now. It also makes me think, and I wonder if either one of you checked out the new Mexican president's inaugural ceremony. Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo is the new Mexican president, first woman president, and she participated, and I don't know if she's indigenous, but she participated in an indigenous women's ceremony as part of her inauguration. So the image that came up literally for me, and I encourage all of you to check it out, all of our listeners today, was this president with all these elder women, indigenous women surrounding her in this very, what it felt to me like was both inspirational and protective. Like they were her spiritual bodyguards, if you will. That's what
Mm.
it felt like anyway. I don't know if either one of you saw that.
Spiritual Secret Service.
Yeah, that's well, not so secret. Not so secret. That's what was
Not so
lovely.
secret. Yeah. Well,
Just
even the Secret
say
Service
it.
isn't very secret. Yeah.
I think we do see at different times in our history that movement towards a more, if not a full council of women elders or whatever, but a more leaning towards a matriarchal vision, whether it's in Dune or in what I just saw yesterday in this inaugural ceremony or Barbie. But I really appreciate Victoria, you talking about this idea of it's not about gender as much as, at least this is what I heard, the values that these elder women might bring, that we still are working on integrating. And I wonder if you could share with us, maybe in your practice, how you bring some of that on the daily to the folks who seek you out for help or in your leadership roles.
The only way that I can answer that, and I think that, I think the example that you give of the new president of Mexico is very precise and good, right? I think that when we see her, claiming her position as a mother and grandmother, and those kinds of relational attributes that she brings to the office. And I've been really thrilled by what she has been saying, right, in the press. And I see just snippets here and there. And what she does, right, she's bringing her whole self to each situation. So what I try to do when I'm out in the world is to bring myself, my whole self, to whatever situation that I'm involved in. And and that's a tall order, most of the time, because we are we're different cultures, we're different, there's a lot of differences, there's a lot of structural things that are obstacles to that. And that's part of our work, is to always be seeking to bring our whole self and our highest self into any situation. And that takes a lot of practice and it takes a lot of courage to do that, right? And I that's my work here. I think that's my work right now. And I think it's probably everyone's work that we practice that. So
Is that what your winged spirit ministry? Are you teaching people how to do that? Are you showing them? What are you doing there?
well, I think that all I can do is show up as myself, right?
Mm.
And allow other people to show up as their self, whatever they're doing at that moment, right? If they're raging, they're showing up. That's what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
And I can accept that. So what I guess my practice is holding all of that, seeing, recognizing, accepting it, accepting people as they are right in that moment, and holding that, and not withholding my love from it, right? That my love is always present and available. And yes, I think that's what I that's my work with Winged Spirit, to help people open up and be open-hearted in the world, not hiding out, but to come out as who you are, and be happy in that, and allow others to love you, and allow
What's your
yourself to love yourself.
What's your vision of how that evolves through your ministry?
Um, I think that, one of the things that we are dealing with so strongly right now, a real big issue, I think, is people feeling isolated and alone, and especially older people. There's a lot of isolation, there's a lot of aloneness. I had someone who just recently said that one of their closest relative was moving out of the area, and they said, I'll never see them again. And, there was such a deep sadness and a deep longing for that connection. And,
Yeah.
and, and I think that, my work is, how do we build community? How do we accept one another? How do we, and when I say accept, I'm kind of thinking about, people can be in community with one another. People can go to a center and not really know one another, for example. They may never do anything outside of the center together. They may never get to know one another on a deeper level. And, that's what I think that's what my work is, to be that, to be actively involved in getting to know one another, letting people know me, right? As best I can. And that's my work, right? So loneliness, I think, and isolation is a big problem for older people, but I think it's also a big problem across the board. We see that, with there's a rise in teen suicides because people feel, young people feel isolated and alone, even though this is supposed to be the most connected, via technology that we've ever been in our entire history of humanity. And yet we have people who feel isolated and alone and powerless in their lives. So, yeah, building community is, I think, key in building trust between one another. And, I think trust and faith are like hand in glove. I don't think we can have trust unless we have faith, and vice versa.
Can't have trust unless we have faith. That's beautiful.
Can I ask you what you see is how do you distinguish trust from faith? I often get confused around that.
Well, I think a lot of times we don't trust one another, right? Just in situations. That's why we don't open up, right? We don't trust being in a relationship. We don't trust that we'll be treated kindly. We don't trust that we'll be accepted. We don't trust that we'll be honored, right? Whatever that is. And I think until we can feel that trust, and I guess kind of it's a process of also letting go, right? Detachment, right? When we can detach from those kinds of things that, oh, they're not going to accept me. I'm not going to be a part of this club, right? When we can detach from that and be ourselves, then we can trust, right?
Where does faith come into that, though?
And
Is
faith,
it like
I think that faith is, if we can't trust one another, I don't think it's possible for us to hop over into faith. Because to me, faith is faith in life, right?
So is it more
Faith,
the other way around? We can't have faith unless we can trust?
well, that's sort of my
Did I get that
experience.
backwards?
No,
That's
it may
sort
be
of my
both.
experience. That's sort of my experience. That yes, we can have faith. We can have faith, but I don't think our faith can grow until we can trust one another.
I see.
So that's my take on it. That's my experience of it. And I think that it is, a lifetime sort of thing. And also, we can get into all kinds of things from that, right?
Right.
Trusting and doing repair work, right, between people, and learning how to do it effectively, right, and letting things go, right, forgiveness. All of that is a part. This is a big bundle that we're unwrapping. When you ask a question, right? Does faith come first? Does trust come first? Well, I think, for me personally, I think I've had to learn how to trust before I can grow in faith.
All right, hold that thought. My guest today is Reverend Dr. Victoria Bomberry, a very wise woman who is raising lots of wonderful questions and answering some of them. We'll answer more of them after this break and acknowledgement of our sponsor, the New Thought Media Network.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And we're back with Reverend Dr. Victoria Bomberry. We're having a marvelous conversation about all sorts of things. I was wondering just what that looks like, though, how you're reaching out with people or planning to reach out with people if your ministry is in an evolution. So are you teaching, holding workshops? Are you meditating with them? Are you out on the streets just finding people and talking to them? What does that look like for you?
Oh, I would just love to be out on the streets talking to people. In fact, my kids always say, Mom's talking to strangers again.
My kids say that too.
And I think that's so funny because, I think that what I do, right? I meet with people, and we do spiritual practices. I meet with a group and we do meditation once a week. I meet with another group of people where we do some sort of spiritual work that changes every month, right? Every month I kind of sit with it and see what I think our group needs.
Yeah.
And we've been practicing community building is what we're doing. We're practicing community building.
Yeah.
So we do something together, we share a meal, and we go from there. I want to, and I work with people in meditation, and I also, have one-on-one sessions with folks. So that's what I do currently. And, I would like to see that grow some. And I also have to say, I am working on balance, right? How do I balance my my life and my ministry with working with Centers for Spiritual Living and doing my ministry and making sure that I am in relationship with my children and grandchildren.
Yes, I get that.
So those are all, that's the balancing act, right?
Yeah, I get that.
And
I've been finding myself a lot lately interesting. I mean, I'm in high gear, right? I've got this show, I speak, I've got a book that theoretically is about to be published. Shout out to my would-be publisher, Gary, and at Divorce. And although I don't have grandchildren yet, and our children are busy, so that part is not taking up that much of my time. Um, and I'm the oldest generation finally, so I'm not serving the older generation anymore. But what I have noticed though is that I'm sort of organically slowing down in some ways. And I'm curious if you have any help for me on this particular adjustment. I so I swim a few times a week. This is just an example. I swim a few times a week, and I'm swimming in an outdoor pool out here in Sacramento, California. It's heated and it's pleasant enough all winter to do that because the air temperature doesn't get that terrible and the pool is heated. But it gets cold enough that I've lately been getting in the hot tub beforehand, then swimming, then getting in the hot tub afterwards. And it's been so delicious and delightful to just take that space and really treat myself and feel like the hot tub before and the hot tub after. I feel like I'm on vacation or something when I do that. But then my head is going, you have a to-do list. You have to get back. You have to be online. You have to answer your producer Sonny's question or reach out to the next guest or talk to another publisher if this publisher isn't going to do it. Are you able to just sort of be in each moment of your day totally there, or does your to-do list kind of haunt you the way mine does?
Sometimes it haunts me. You know, I've spent a lot of time trying not to think that I have to do as much.
Mm-hmm.
And being overly responsible. I think we can be responsible, and I think we can be overly responsible.
Yeah.
And so I've tried to tone that back, right? And I'm just going to laugh because one thing that I did is I decided, okay, my to-do list can't be bigger than a Post-it.
That's pretty small. And you don't mean one of those giant Post-its, right? You mean like a real Post-it.
I mean a small one.
Yeah.
And I said, it can only be that big, right?
Oh my gosh. Sonny, do you hear that?
I hear that, and what both of you were talking about makes me think of a few things. One is one of my favorite new discoveries, though she's not new. Her name is Jenny Odell, and one of the books she wrote is How to Do Nothing. And she talks about doing nothing, not just like self-care and balancing and all the things that we already know in terms of health, but in terms of being a political statement. And she talks about the attention economy and how much attention we are giving to things that make other people money, and how hard it is to give attention back to what you're talking about, Victoria, which is community. She is in the Bay Area, and she had moved somewhere in Oakland, and some fifth graders had come up to her and asked about like, how long have you been living in this community, or how long have you been part of this community? And she started to answer just like when she moved here, and then she realized, wait, I'm not yet part of this community. I haven't done anything to get to know the people. I have not, really made those connections. And it really made her stop and think about, again, what does that mean to be part of a community? She talked very specifically about the fires. And Sarah, you mentioned this in your last blog about who are our friends, right? They're the people we spend time with, we interact with daily, and that often neighbors, people don't necessarily consider them friends, but our neighbors can end up being some of those people if we just reach across the balcony or step out and chat. I've been very lucky this month because I've had some of the help and care of my neighbors while going through a surgical recovery. But Dr. Bomberry, you said something that really touched my heart, and I just want to stress that, which is you talked about letting yourself be known as an act of service in building community. Like, And you may not have remembered saying that a few minutes ago, but I really wanted to like just underline that, because I think very often many of us think of vulnerability or letting ourselves be known as a selfish act, right? The attention on yourself. But when you talk about building community and making connection without letting yourself be known, it's not possible, and it's a doorway. And has that always come easily for you? Is that something that you've had to like be very intentional about? Is it still scary?
It's terrifying to me. And I don't know how to say what the terror is, right? But yeah, I think it's hard to allow yourself to be known, right? And I think it's especially hard in leadership to let yourself be known, because there's a lot of expectations, right, of who leaders are and what they should be like, right? There's kind of a perfectionism that is at work, which is horrifying for a perfectionist, you know. And so, yeah, letting yourself be known is a terrible, a terrible thing for a perfectionist, right? So,
Mhm.
that's been part of my spiritual work, I think, is how do I, what do I do? What do I say? And how can I be my authentic self at all times? And I won't always be authentic, right? That's a pretty high bar, but I think there might come a time when I am, right? And I think there's moments that those moments stretch out for longer and longer periods when, yes, I am my authentic self. When my persona, that outside facade, right? When I actually bring two pieces of myself together into one, integrate, right? When I become integrated with that, then yes, I'm being known as my whole self, right?
Well,
Not,
let's
yeah.
talk about that integration, because you and
Mhm,
I talked the other day
mhm.
about this, of how you admitted to me that privately, but you said you were willing to talk about it publicly, so I'm bringing it up. And you're bringing it up, that you kind of have separate lives. Like you have maybe a whole world on Facebook that doesn't get integrated into your ministry. And what's going on with that?
I think I don't know that, I may have been overstating that in a way,
Okay.
because, yeah, because, with Facebook, I don't put anything about ministry in there
Hmm.
generally. I
Well, that's
might
what
put,
I mean. That's what I
yeah, I
mean.
might put a few things about ministry in there, but I put things in there that are interesting to me, even if
Hmm.
it's funny things
Yeah.
or what I did on my morning walk, which
Yeah.
is to me very spiritual. That's my
Yeah.
spiritual practice in the morning is walking,
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
outdoors. That is my spiritual work.
That is your spiritual
So
practice.
that is something that I will often put on Facebook, and I'm not on Facebook that much.
Hmm.
And there is something about having a space that is like that, right?
Hmm.
And just like I would suggest for everyone, do something that's outside of what you think your main work is. Have another place that you
Yeah.
are going, that you're getting different things, right, from that realm that you don't get from your main work. So that would be something that I would recommend. So integrating, I think, comes into a question that Sunny asked. How do you do that out in the world? Well, we're
Hmm.
constantly working to integrate all these different realms that we visit and occupy at different moments. We're integrating that into this whole that we are, right? When being in leadership, and there's certain things that there's certain persona that you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at time, I can think when I was younger, that was uncomfortable. And I think over time, I can feel a shift in bringing these different parts of myself together. Now, I do have a hard time thinking I'm out in the world. I do have a hard time with that. And I think in a lot of ways, I'm a very shy, soft-spoken person, and I'm very introverted. And yet I speak. That's one thing that I love doing. I love speaking. I feel like I'm called to speak to certain things, and I love it. And when it's over, it's something. I'm quiet.
Yeah.
So
what's one thing that you can think of that you be willing to do that brings you out into the world a little bit more than you are now?
What I like to do, and I want to do more of, is I want to go and visit more organizations
Mm-hmm.
and get to know what people are doing, different organizations are doing, and different people. That's part of my curiosity. I love seeing what people are doing. I love going to the farmer's market, for example, and talking to people about what they're doing. If they're beekeepers. I love bees. My husband kept bees until he became allergic to them, and I said, no more of those bees. But so I love talking to people about their experiences with whatever they're doing. And you ask me what's in store for Wing Spirit. I do want to have a program where I am doing exactly that, going out, being who I am, a curious person who wants to know about what's your life like, and what are you doing, what gives you all that joy, because sometimes I see people, on the street doing something, and they're happy as they can be, right? I'd like to, I want to share that, I want to help share that. And
my
I think
mind go ahead.
Go ahead. That's fine.
Well, but my mind went to, it's funny, I noticed that I went to, oh, have you thought of getting a little booth at the farmer's market that you like going to? Do you want to go out with a camera and interview people? And then I thought, well, just going out and talking to people at the farmer's market and talking to people on the street without a camera is probably even more way of getting connected with them. Although I will say that one of the things, maybe the thing that I love the most about doing this webcast, which, full disclosure, I started because my book coach was asking me, what are some other ways that we can increase your platform, which I really hate that name for things, so that publishers will believe that you can sell books. And I said, well, I've always wanted to do a webcast. And so he said, well, then why don't you do it? Now, it's not clear that anybody's really watching the webcast. Maybe they are. It does seem like we have 52 subscribers and hundreds and hundreds of hits on our videos. But what I get to do is have a great conversation with someone really wonderful every week. This week, you. And that's not something I was necessarily doing every week. It was something I might think about doing, but I didn't really create the space for it to happen. And so I feel like if the camera had to be on for me, in my case, I am an extrovert. The camera had to be on for me to have this conversation, then so be it.
Yeah, and I also think there's value in having more people view or listen to something, right? And I think that it's very important right now that we are actively building the world that we want to see, because it looks like the billionaires are definitely building the world they want to see, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I think that we have to, like Starhawk's book, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Utopia was very small scale, right? It was,
Very.
it was very relational,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's what we have to start building. And, I think that's why I think survivors of falls of civilization have that trick down. How do
Yeah.
we build relationships? How do we love one another through hard times, right?
Yeah.
And and I don't want to be apocalyptic, but I do think that we are in a position right now that we see every day people who aren't being cared for.
Mm-hmm.
And who's
Yeah.
going to care for them?
Yes.
We have to be doing that.
Yeah.
That's our mission as people who
Yeah.
are dedicated to living in spirit. That's our
Yeah.
mission.
Yeah.
It's not just about me, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have to care for the people around us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm my very next guest on this show is a woman named Julia Sotis Mattis. And she one of the things she taught that are making me think about is she said that her business and her service to the world, the teaching that she does, started to take off when she started to do this thing where she called 10 people a day to see how they're doing. And she said, I didn't call to see if they wanted to buy my product, or which is,
Mm-hmm.
go to a class that she was teaching is similar to our products. Go, attend a meditation or an event or a teaching or speaking. And in fact, that didn't come up at all. And she said, my total agenda had to literally be calling these people and seeing how they're doing. Just and not calling people that I think are really connected or have something to offer me. No ulterior motive, except that it was a way of kicking up spiritual dust, getting out of her head, getting into community. And she said she did that for 6 months, just calling 10 people a day to see how they're doing, with absolutely, whoever just came to her mind as needing a call was who she called, and even called people she barely knew, and had all these wonderful conversations. And then suddenly she had $100,000 more in income. So, but that wasn't her goal. Her goal was just to call 10 people a day and see how they were doing. And ever since I heard that, it has really opened up for me that this is the stuff we teach in Centers for Spiritual Living. The giving and the receiving is all connected, right? Sunny, our producer here, is a big giver. She's always interested in other people and really has a much higher tolerance for hearing what is up with people and being interested in it than I do. It's a miracle that she's not the host of this show instead of me. She would probably be a lot better. She's much less selfish. I'm really quite selfish.
Well, I think it's interesting that you say, what you're talking about and having a platform, right? And the way that we're being trained to live in the world right now
Mm-hmm.
is very, what's it going to do for me? It's not about what your books might have in them, the content of the book. It's how popular they might be or how popular you are.
Right.
And I think that's one of our downfalls right now.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And, I love the idea of calling people with no agenda, right? Other than finding out how they are and being interested in them, right? And, you asked me about this, why don't I want to be seen in the world? And part of it is that it's not that I don't want to be seen in the world, right, on social media. It's that I hate it when someone will say, well, I Googled you. And I'm like, don't Google me. Come and talk to me. I'd really love to talk to you. I don't want to be Googled. And I think that I'm not the only one who feels that way, right? We don't want to have this abstract relationship. We want to have real relationships with people. We really, I think we do. That's what I want. And so much of what we're being trained into right now is not real relationships.
Yeah.
I think we can develop relationships from social media, but I think that there's something very human about being together and doing things together and sharing with one another that I don't want to lose. I don't want to live in an atomized universe. I want to live in these beautiful forms that we have.
All right, let's let that be the final word from Reverend Dr. Don't Google Me, Come Talk to Me, Victoria Bomberry, who has been a delightful and deep and wise guest as always. So grateful to have you here and to have a chance to get to know the way your mind works a little bit more and your heart especially. And yes, as it said below here, thanks, Sunny. We're taking a 3-week break now, and we'll be back in the new year, January 8th, with Julia Sotis Mattis, who is an amazing access consciousness facilitator, global event creator. She's the woman I was just talking about. And then we've got some other fantastic people coming up. Evan Unruh, a really cool life coach that specializes in emotional intelligence, and Mark Anthony Lord, who is himself, like Julia, an internet sensation, a course in miracles, and a real life channeler. I don't know whether he'll channel on the show, but you never know. You'd have to actually watch to find out. Thank you for being here, and have a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year.
Thanks to our guest, to host Sarah Stevens Nichols, and to the New Thought Media Network. I'm Sunny Childs, producer of The Conscious Reality Show. Join us live next Wednesday at 9 a.m. or stream the show at your convenience. Subscribe to Conscious Reality Show YouTube channel so you never miss a show. If you'd like to learn more about us, check out www.sarahstevensnichols.com.